Thoughtless, you must tell me your thoughts openly. Love doesn't recognize nobility, lineage, or equality. It doesn't differentiate between people in high and low positions. You can be sure that no matter how criminal your words were, I wouldn't tell them to the emperor or to anyone else. Thoughtless plucked up his courage, and in a whisper he said, "Because of my great attraction for you, my lady, I often wanted to reveal my deep love for your majesty, but fear stopped me from telling you my feelings until now, since you are the most excellent of all things excellent. But if love makes me speak indiscreetly, you must suffer it patiently, and must punish me with tender words. Tell me, I beg you, how I must behave in your honor." The empress replied, "You've given my heart many worries and cares. I'm wondering what has given you hope of having me, since the distance between our ages is so great. If it became known, what would they say about me? That I've fallen in love with my grandson. Any maiden would be overjoyed to be loved by you, but I would rather someone else had your love, without any crime or infamy, than for me to perish because of love." The empress could say no more, since the emperor had gotten up from where he was sitting. He went over to the empress and took her by the hand, and they went in to dine. That night Hippolytus could not talk to the princess, but he spoke with Player de Mavida, and she said to him, "What were you talking to the empress about for so long? You two are always together." "It's nothing," said Hippolytus. "She was just asking about our captain." Early the next day Hippolytus left without reply from the princess. When Trnt saw him, he said, "It's been 5 days since I've seen you." "My lord," said Hippolytus, "the emperor made me stay there, and so did the princess, and while we were out walking we talked about you. Everyone intends to come see you. That's why the princess decided not to give you any answer, because her visit will be soon." Trnt said, "That is very good news." He had the doctors come and begged them to take him to the city, since he was feeling so well. "I can tell you truly that I'll get better in 1 day in the city than I could here in 10. Do you know why? I was born and raised near the sea, and the sea air is very healthy for me." All the doctors agreed, and 2 of them went to tell the emperor. The emperor then rode to where the captain was, and Trnt was taken to the city in 4 days, in a bier carried on the shoulders of 4 men. When he was in his chambers, the empress and all her ladies went to see him. They were very happy he was feeling better, and all the ladies from the palace as well as the city often visited him. But the empress, who was warned by one of her maidens she trusted much more than the others, seldom left her daughter alone when she was in Trnt's room, and so they had little time to talk about their love. In the meantime, Player de Mavida came every day, trying to find a way for the battle to come to a conclusion. Let us stop talking about Trnt now, and return to the encampment. When the truce ended, the war began, cruel and savage, for the Turks knew about Trnt's injury. Every day they came near the city of St. George where the camp was, and every day there were first fierce battles, and many men from both sides were killed. Each day the emperor wrote to them to tell them how Trnt was, and to encourage them. He told them that Trnt was getting out of bed now to strengthen his leg and to help him recover. They all felt comforted, especially the Duke of Macedonia, who loved him dearly. Trnt was getting better daily, and he could walk through his chambers with the aid of a staff. Almost every day the ladies came to see him and keep him company, and the princess entertained him. And do not think that Trnt wanted to be healed very soon. This was because of the lovely sight he had daily of the princess, and he had few thoughts about going to war. Instead, it was his wish to fulfill his desire with his lady, and as for the war, let someone go there who wanted to. As the emperor and the empress were in Trnt's room, he could not talk to the princess without being overheard by the empress. So he called to Hippolytus and quietly said to him, "Go outside, and then come back in shortly, and go to the empress's side. Start talking to her about whatever you think will please her most, and I will see if I can talk to the princess about my love for her." Hippolytus returned as he agreed, and went to the empress, and quietly said to her, "I always wanted to be near your excellency. This is because I love you so much, and I beg you to grant me a boon that will increase my honor and my fame. If I am loved by your majesty, then there will be no one more fortunate than I." And he said no more. The empress replied, Your great virtue is making me go beyond the bounds of chastity. If you swear to me by all that is holy that you will say nothing of this to the emperor or to anyone, you will have everything you like. In the still of the night, wait for me quietly on the roof near my chamber, and if you come, have no doubts, for I love you dearly, and I will not be late until unless death itself stands in my way. Hippolytus tried to tell her about one thing he was afraid of, and the empress told him that to think of every possible danger was a sign of weakness in spirit. Do what I tell you, and don't worry about another thing now. Hippolytus answered, My lady, I will be happy to do everything your majesty commands me. When they had finished their conversation, the empress left Trnt's lodging with all the other ladies, and when they were in the palace, the empress said, Let us go visit the emperor. When they were together with him, they conversed pleasantly. Afterwards, the empress stood up, feeling the anguish of her new love, and she said to Carmenisa, Stay here with these maidens, and keep your father company. The empress went to her chambers and told her maidens to have the stewards come, as she wanted to change the satin curtains and put others fringed in silk, saying, The emperor told me that he would like to come here, and I want to entertain him a little, since he has not come for a long time. She quickly had the entire chamber furnished with linens of silk brocade. Then she had the chamber and the bed sprinkled with perfume. After they had eaten, the empress retired, saying he had a headache, and in everyone's presence a maiden named Lucia said to her, My lady, does your highness want me to call the doctors to help minister to you? Do as you like, said the empress, but summon them in such a way that the emperor does not find out, so that he will have no excuse for not coming tonight. The doctors came quickly and took her pulse, and they found it very rapid, because she hoped to do battle with a young knight, and she was fearful. The doctor said, My lady, your majesty should take a few sweetened hemp seeds with a glass of malmsey. That will help your headache and make you sleep. As far as sleeping is concerned, I don't think I'll do much of that with my illness. The way I'm feeling, I'd probably be tossing and turning all over my bed. My lady, said the doctor, if that happens to your majesty, send for us right away, or if you wish, we'll stand watch at the door to your chambers, or there inside, so that we can look at your face from time to time. And we'll do this all night long. I won't accept that offer right now, said the empress. I want the whole bed to myself, and I don't want any of you looking at my face. The illness I have won't stand for anyone to be watching. The doctors left. When they were at the door, they told her not to forget the comfits and moisten them well with malmsey. The empress was so obedient that she ate a large box of them. Then she had her bed sprinkled with perfume, and she had civet put on the sheets and pillows. When this was done, she was perfumed. She told her maidens to go to sleep and to close the door to their chamber. In the empress's chamber there was a sitting room where she always went to dress, and in the sitting room was a door that opened out to the roof where Hippolytus was. When she got out of bed, Lucia heard her and quickly got up, thinking something was wrong, and when she was in the chamber she said, Why did your highness get out of bed? Are you feeling worse? No, said the empress, I'm fine, but I forgot to say the devout prayer that I always pray every night. Lucia said, My lady, would you be so kind as if to tell it to me? I'd be happy to, said the empress. This is it. At night, at the first star you see, you must kneel down on the ground and say 3 Our Fathers and 3 Hail Marys in reverence to the 3 kings of the Orient, that just as they were guided and guarded while they were watching and sleeping, and when they were in the hands of King Herod, that they will give you grace to be free from infancy, and so that all your affairs will prosperous and increase in all that is good. Now don't disturb me in my devotions. The maiden went to her bed, and the empress went into the sitting room. When she saw that the maiden was in bed, she put a dress of green velvet lined with sable on over her chemise. Then she opened the door to the roof and saw Hippolytus crouched down so that no one would see him. That made her very pleased, as she thought that her honor would be safe. When Hippolytus saw her, he got up quickly and went to her. He knelt on the ground, and kissed her hands and tried to kiss her feet, but the worthy lady would not permit it, and instead kissed him again and again on the mouth. Then she took his hand and showed him great love and told him to come to her chamber. Hippolytus said, My lady, your majesty must excuse me, but I will not go to your chamber until my desire has a taste of its future glory. and he took her in his arms and laid her on the floor, and there they enjoyed the climax of their love. Afterwards they went into the sitting room very happily. Hippolytus, with great joy, gave her true peace, and with a happy spirit and loving expression he said, "If I dared say what glory I feel at this moment with the great perfection I found in your Majesty, I don't believe my tongue would have ever had enough power to express it." The Empress, smiling, replied, "Although my mind finds itself tormented, I will not complain about you, or even less about God or myself, because I have been able to win you." "My lady," said Hippolytus, "now is not the time for words. Let us go to bed, and there we will speak of other matters that will increase your delight, and will be of great consolation to me." After he had said this, Hippolytus quickly stood naked. Then he went to the genteel lady, removed the clothing she had on, so that she was left in her chemise, and whoever saw her in this way would recognize that she was like a maiden, and that she possessed as much beauty as can be found in this world. Her daughter Carmenisa resembled her in many ways, but not in all, for this lady's beauty, in her time, surpassed that of her daughter. The young gallant took her by the arm and placed her on the bed, and there they remained, talking and sporting as lovers do. When half the night had passed, the lady heaved a deep sigh. "Why is your Majesty sighing?" said Hippolytus. "Is it because I did not satisfy you?" "It is quite the opposite," said the Empress. "The feeling I have towards you have increased even more. At first I thought of you as a good man, and now I find you much better and more valiant. The reason for my sighing has only been that I am grieved because they will hold you as a heretic." "What, my lady?" said Hippolytus. "Why should I be considered a heretic?" "Because," said the Empress, "you have fallen in love with your mother." "My lady," said Hippolytus, "no one knows how worthy you are but me." The two lovers spoke of these things, and many others, with all the delights and sweet words that two people in love enjoy. They did not sleep the whole night through, and morning was nearly upon them. The Empress had spoken the truth when she told the doctors that she would sleep very little that night. Now, tired from staying awake, they slept, for the new day had arrived. When the day was fully upon them, the maiden Alucia, who had completely dressed by now, entered the Empress's chamber to ask her how she was, and if she wanted anything. When she approached the bed, she saw a man lying at the side of the Empress, her arm under the gallant's head, and his mouth to her breast. "Oh, Holy Mary, help me!" said Alucia. "Who is this traitor who has deceived my lady?" She was tempted to cry out loudly, "Kill the traitor who by cunning and deception has entered this chamber to possess the delights of this bed." Then she thought that no one would be so bold as to enter there against the Empress's will. She tried as hard as she could to see who it was, but it was impossible, because he had his head hidden. She was afraid that the other maidens might enter the chamber to wait on the Empress, as they usually did, so Alucia went in to where they were sleeping, and said to them, "My lady bids you not to leave the room so that you will not make any noise, because sleep has not yet satisfied her eyes." After half an hour had passed, the doctors came to see how the Empress was. The maiden went to the door and said the lady was resting, because during the night she had been a little ill. "We will stay here," said the doctors, "until Her Majesty awakens. That is the Emperor's command." The maiden did not know how to remedy the situation, nor whether she should awaken her or not. She was filled with indecision until the Emperor knocked on the chamber door. The maiden, upset, and without sufficient patience or discretion, went anxiously to the bed and cried out softly, "Wake up, my lady, wake up! Death is approaching. Your poor husband is knocking at the door, and he knows that you have offended him. Who is this cruel man who lies at your side and brings so much grief? Is he an unknown king? I pray to God Almighty that I will see him a crown of fire on his head. If he is a duke, I hope to see him end his days in prison. If he is a marquis, I hope to see his hands and feet eaten. If he is a count, he should die by evil weapons. If he is a viscount, may a Turk's sword slice him through from head down to his navel. And if he is a knight, sailing at the sea's will, may he end his days in the deep."